This is Force 13. Hello, my name's Nathan Foy. I'm joined by David and Lachlan joining us from Australia, and we're here to discuss over the next few minutes briefly the current situation with Tropical Storm Nock-ten in the Western Pacific, the Philippine name Nina, and Cyclone Yvette near Western Australia. And there's a distinct possibility that both of those storms could make landfalls on or around Christmas Day. First of all, you can see on the imagery here what's going on with Tropical Storm Nock-ten. It's intensifying rather somewhat quickly. It's up to 65 miles per hour last time I saw. David, can you clarify that? The JTWC graphic there shows a little bit less actually, but I believe it is up to 65 miles per hour from what I saw. Regardless, the storm's expected to intensify gradually over the next few days and could peak as a Category 4 Category 3 or Category 4 storm, Category 4 at worst according to one or two of the model runs, before affecting the Philippines. If you just scroll down slightly there, David. And then moving towards the west-northwest predominantly, making a landfall somewhere in Luzon, we expect, late on Christmas Day, UTC, which would make it the early hours of the 26th in the Philippines that the storm would be making landfall in. And it could pass very close indeed to Manila as a significant typhoon. Manila is just where the mouse is hovering there, and if you just scroll to the right once more, David, you'll see the distance that JTWC forecast it to be from Manila. 8 nautical miles is that. That's hardly anything. It could even be in the eye. And then the storm moving off to the west-northwest. Obviously don't take too much credence to the track forecast actually following the track. Follow the cone of uncertainty. It's there for a reason, and the storm could pass significantly away from the center line of where the storm is expected to go there. Then out in the South China Sea, weakening significantly, will probably dissipate over the South China Sea or be a very, very weak tropical storm. I want to take you to the attention of the next tab, which is Force 13's rendition of what the warnings should be at this point. Now, it's somewhat ludicrous to me that the Philippines haven't issued any warnings on the storm yet. I think Signal 1 warnings should be in effect for all of those areas right now, which include the coastal areas of Samar, Catanduanes in the eastern part of just east of Luzon, and some parts of southern Luzon, including Quezon province. I feel that those should be under Signal 1 warnings right now, in accordance with their criteria from Pagasa, that they would be to expect 30 to 60 kilometer per hour winds in the next 36 hours. That is the definition of a Signal 1 warning, and I think that's very likely for those areas. And I think that Signal 2 warnings should come into effect for the easternmost islands, possibly this time tomorrow or sooner. So officially no warnings in effect yet, but you can go on the Force 13 website and you can find the Philippine warnings, and they'll be regularly updated as far as what we expect the storm will do. Let's move on to the imagery then. I believe it's the imagery next. There it is. So there's the storm heading towards sort of a west-northwesterly direction, and you can see it's sort of distinguishing a comma shape in those latest frames. Certainly beginning to define itself, and if it wasn't for that little gap to the northeast there, you could be talking about something like it becoming near typhoon status. It's getting pretty close regardless, but it will have to seal off that northeastern side that appears to be a little bit bare before we call it a typhoon. Nonetheless, I think that will happen in the next 12 to 24 hours, and that we could see a typhoon by then. Infrared next, I believe. Well, that is infrared there. It's not the visible imagery there, but that was unenhanced. This is the rainbow imagery. Sometimes you can get a bit of a better idea what's going on in the life of the storm there. And you can see it's sort of maybe not quite as good as it could look there in those latest frames. And I guess we'll watch and wait to see what happens. Obviously, it's passed clear of Yap, I must mention. There were tropical storm warnings for Yap yesterday, but those, I assume, are gone. They certainly should be anyway, because the storm is well clear of Yap now. The next image, I believe, is the wind shear graphic, if David could navigate over there. And in a moment you will know that the wind shear is not looking too great in the Western Pacific. It is actually on the increase in the Philippines, and further towards the north the wind shear is quite high as well. But the storm expected to move towards that higher amount of wind shear, which is increasing last time I saw. There we go, we've finally got there. The storm right now is over low amounts of wind shear, very low actually. But you can see those areas there, the 10s towards the centre of the Philippines, that denotes how it's rising by 10 in the last 24 hours. And if that continues, then the storm will have a really tricky time in 2 or 3 days, and that could end up being a saving grace for the Philippines. We'll obviously be watching that very closely indeed. Wind shear further north naturally is extremely high. The next image is another satellite loop, and just shows you again the structure of the storm. It's certainly got a decent structure, particularly the northern half of the storm. I don't know if, David, you've got any extra comments on that.
Not at this point.
Not at this point. Next image then, and that's the sea surface temperatures. So you can see the wind shear, the sea surface temperatures, losing my train of thought, are pretty warm around the Philippine Sea. We'll talk about Australia shortly. 28 degrees or higher in the Philippine Sea into the Philippines, and then the western side into the South China Sea goes off a cliff the further north you go. The northern half of the South China Sea is cool, but still just about warm enough. But wind shear, I imagine, will really have its way with Nock-ten when it does get into the South China Sea. We'll talk about Australia shortly. As you can see, very warm waters down there. And that's the models there, an ensemble of what the storm's expected to do. Quite a good consensus that it will pass through southern Luzon, and then less so of a consensus after that, but the storm will be significantly weaker, so I guess we can sort of let that lie for now. Now let's go over to Lachlan, if I may, because I believe he'll be talking about what's going on in Australia right now with Cyclone Yvette.
Yes. Well, Cyclone Yvette, compared to yesterday, overnight had a bit of
You might want
problems.
to grab the screen share as well.
Yes, it's probably a good idea. And, yeah.
Somewhere.
Yes.
It's a Category 1 on the Australian scale still, isn't it? There it is.
Yes. Okay, that's good. As I was saying, last night things changed, and it's not expected to reach Category 2 anymore. Expected, and also now we have landfall area just south of Wallowa Downs as a Category 1. Gale force winds look to just stay in Wallowa Downs, but other than that, not go too far inland. Looking at some floaters, because we don't really have visible yet. Shortwave is the next best option, and as you can see, the past few hours, the storm has been regrowing for some reason.
It's looked
also very
identical
clearly
for
shown.
almost 24 hours.
Yes, and it shrunk, and then now it's coming back. And yeah, you've got those cold cloud tops again, which we had yesterday morning as well. Just another perspective here as well, probably not as good.
Showing again those extremely high cloud tops, though. That's more for the cloud tops. And we must point out there as well that imagery, what we're seeing there, it's quite misleading, showing what could be an eye feature, but it is not an eye.
Yes, been doing that for a while now. And where the storm is currently located, it's 29 to 30 degrees Celsius sea surface temperatures. So sea surface temperatures are not a problem for the system at this point, but this is the problem. Wind shear. It's 40, maybe even 50, definitely 30 in some areas. So the system has a lot of wind shear to deal with, and to make matters worse for it, wind shear is increasing to its north and to its south, but there might be a window where things could change, where it is decreasing to its east, and that might let it intensify a little bit more. But I don't have much else to say about Yvette at this point. So I'll move on.
Wind shear can't mean much anymore if these storms just keep surviving despite high wind shears. Seems to be a more common trend. I don't know whether that's just a some sort of miraculous event. Anyway, or whether it's actually happening. David.
Just looking at the Joint Typhoon Warning Centre's latest information, it's 475 nautical miles north of Leamont, Australia. Has tracked east-south-east at 2 knots over the last 6 hours.
They've changed that now, haven't they? That's
looks like it.
After yesterday.
The latest infrared satellite imagery depicts deep convection shear to the west of a fully exposed low-level circulation centre.
And that's why it's struggling. Potential land effects. Any thoughts on that?
Lots of rain.
Do you think it's going to cause serious issues?
Yes, because there's a monsoonal low that has already moved through the area that Yvette's forecast to move through. So the ground has already been saturated. So these areas, some of them are already flooding. So
and just to the landfall time there, what were they saying about when it will make landfall?
December the 26th, around 2 a.m.
So the night of Christmas Day, as a Category 1 there.
It will be hanging around off the coast.
And Category 1 on the Australian scale, of course, is mainly covers the tropical storm status on the Sappho-Simpson scale. I can't remember where the cut-off point is between Category 1 and Category 2 on the Australian scale. But nonetheless...
Category 1 is in tropical storm.
Yeah, mainly. It's all very confusing when we get to Australian scales and stuff. But Category 1 on the Australian scale, so anyone in Australia hopefully will know what that means and ignore everything else.
Just wondering, Nathan, if Lachlan could bring up the total rainfall from the Bureau. Do you have that link?
Yes, I can do that.
Yeah. And while Lachlan brings it up, there are several warnings in place via the Western Australia office. We've got a severe weather warning for damaging winds, heavy rainfall for the Kimberley and the North Interior districts. 90S remains a tropical low, 992. And it's currently located over the far southern Kimberley, approximately 200 kilometres southwest of the Fitzroy Crossing, or 300 kilometres southeast of Broome. The low is expected to continue tracking southwards into the North Interior during Friday, and the low is expected to turn south. And unfortunately, it's not good news for Broome and Derby, because they're going to be impacted by Yvette, and they've got this one tracking down from the northeast.
Yeah, I'm talking about Yvette now.
992. Yeah.
Lachlan's got the rain chart up. I think the 4-day one was more convincing, actually. What are those values there that it has for the 4-day?
The highest are up to 500.
Up to 500 millimetres of rainfall for some areas there, and that extends quite a way inland.
Yeah, and talking about the rainfall, we have a flood watch for the Kimberley, the interior district. We have a flood warning for the North Kimberley district, initial flood warning for the West Kimberley district, initial minor flood warning for the Fitzroy River. We have a flood warning now in place for the Ord River.
And I'm sure we'll see many more as well. Well, I'm going to cap off this short update here on these two storms. We may be live in the future for longer spells of time. I just want David to bring up his parting image of... I'd like to show everyone the overview of what's going on from the Himawari 8 full disc satellite. And what you'll see on there is the situation all the way from the Indian Ocean to halfway across the South Pacific and the West Pacific, of course. And you'll see 4 systems, I believe, including that one in the South Pacific that David might want to elaborate on when he brings up the screen share.
Oh, sorry.
He wasn't prepared.
We're getting a bit of that today.
Okay, now, there's Yvette.
Yvette on the left.
There's the 90S, which is the 992 low, and it is going to track to the southeast of
You can see
Yvette.
You can see half of Nock-ten as well if you scroll up there. You'll
So,
see the
yeah,
rest of it. David's trying to figure out the zoom function. We've been talking about this before we... Bit to the northeast, David. Northeast. He's struggling. You're getting there.
I am struggling.
You've still got half of it. We haven't gotten any further. No. Go scroll up now, David. There it is. That's Nock-ten.
There it is.
And just to the far left there, you can see the lights of Manila and the rest of the Philippines, which are about to enter daylight. And if you just click again, David, to just bring up the full picture again, so that we can see... Ooh, off to the... That's New Zealand. But off to the right over there, towards the bottom right-hand side, you've got that system...
92S.
92S? Is that right?
Yes, 92S or Tropical Depression 5 by the Fiji Met. But
Are you sure it's got the suffix S? Because that usually means South Indian. It should be a P.
TF or TP?
Oh, P, yes.
Sorry. All these prefixes and
Suffixes.
but
Suffixes. I keep doing that. Suffixes.
but stay tuned to the AU, because Lachlan and I will be doing a other update on Yvette.
Yes, search
the
Force
next
13
advice.
AU. You can also find it. I think it's in our featured channels on Force 13's main channel. But yeah, many more updates to come, I should imagine. Guys, thank you very much for the brief discussion. It's not been so brief, actually. It's been nearly 20 minutes, would you believe? The time goes by. But we hope you enjoyed it, and we hope that it's been of information to you. Any questions, send them in, and we'll get back to you maybe sometime in the next video or in the comments section of this one. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you again soon.